Welcome. My name is student Dr. Stephanie Bates. First, I would like to congratulate you on almost completing the education portion. We are all very proud of you, and I hope you are proud of yourselves too. This segment will cover future aspirations. So let's get started. What are your aspirations for the future? Before we get started, I'd just like to share some background about myself. I am a non-traditional student, which means there were breaks in my education. For example, I graduated high school in 2001 and I went off to college right after, which is what a traditional student would do. However, I didn't complete my first semester at college. I dropped out before finals. That led to a lot of sadness and feelings of dejection, and I was ashamed. I ended up getting a job as a bank teller at an entry level position. And fast forward 3 years later, when I was 21 and I was a little bit more mature, I realized that education was important to me. So I started going back to school, taking night classes at a local community college with the goal of achieving an associate's degree in accounting. Once I achieved my associate's degree, my new goal was to achieve a bachelor's degree. So I transferred to Columbia University, where I achieved a bachelor's degree in economics at the age of 27. From there, I realized that my passion really wasn't banking or accounting, and I decided to go back to school to complete my prerequisites to pursue my true passion, which was medicine. And I applied to medical school. And as I speak to you now, I am 4 months away of graduating medical school. So the point of the story is that no matter how windy your path is or how many forks in the road there are always going to be hills and valleys throughout your life. But as long as you continue to keep your eye on the prize and move towards the goals that are near and dear to your heart, you will get there eventually. And with that, let's start our presentation on setting you up for success. In general, the first step is to formulate your goal. These are some characteristics that will make your goal more likely to be achieved. Firstly, your goal should be individualized to you. It should be personal and it should be something that you hold near and dear in your heart. Second, you should be able to write your goal out without too much effort or time. It should be clear and simple. Third, you should allow accurate determination of achievement. For instance, there should be clear milestones that will tell you whether you're moving towards achieving your goal or not. And finally, your goal should be flexible enough to be relevant over a long period of time. My goal was flexible enough that it has lasted 20 years and it'll last a lifetime because for me, medicine is a lifelong learning journey. One evidence-based approach to goal setting is the SMART approach. Each letter is an acronym for a step that will help you set goals that are achievable. S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R stands for relevant, and T stands for time bound. And we are going to go through each step in the next few slides. The first letter of the SMART method is S for specific. This means that a goal should be simple, sensible, significant. We want to ask ourselves, what target behavior do I want to accomplish? And this behavior should be as clearly stated as possible. For example, if my goal is to walk, I want to set my goal, my target behavior as I'm going to walk outdoors rather than I'm going to exercise. So there's a difference between specifying the behavior rather than just generally stating the behavior. We want to ask why this goal is important to me, and this helps us keep it individual to us. We also want to identify what support we will need. Who are we going to involve and whose help are we going to need to be successful? What tools will I need to achieve my goal? Is there education or training that I will need in order to work towards my goal as well? The next letter in the SMART method is M for measurable. This means that we want to be able to quantify our performance while we work towards achieving our goals. So for instance, how far or how fast are we swimming or moving? How much or how often are we working towards our goal? How are our grades improving? And are we achieving the milestones that we have set forth for ourselves? The next letter in the SMART method is A, which is for achievable. We want our goals to be attainable, which means that we want to stretch our abilities but still remain within our possibilities. So for instance, an attainable goal is becoming a yellow belt in in karate. So for me, I'm in my 30s, and I think if I started taking lessons and stuck with it, that would be probably an attainable goal. However, will I become the next Jackie Chan? That's not within the realm of my possibilities. I have not dedicated my entire life to martial arts, so therefore I will likely not become Jackie Chan. But I can take classes a few times a week and work towards certain belts. So those are the differences between setting an achievable goal and setting a pie in the sky goal. And a little side note about attaining your goals. We want to be able to judge whether we're moving towards our goals or not, but we want to do that with compassion and gentleness towards ourselves. So something important to keep in mind is that sometimes we will exceed our expectations and sometimes we will not, but there's rarely any negative progress towards a goal. We are always working towards a goal, even though we're not achieving the exact measurements that we have set out for ourselves. So, for instance, I didn't get straight A's in every class that I intended to throughout my educational journey, but I still learned a lot along the way, even in classes that I got B's. Those are things to remember, that we are all human beings and we all have constraints to our abilities, but as long as we continue moving forward, we'll get there eventually. The next letter in the SMART method is R for relevant. This means that our goals should be reasonable and realistic and continue to be relevant over long periods of time. There are a few questions that you can check in at different moments while you're working towards your goal to make sure that it's still relevant to you. So you would want to ask, does this goal seem worthwhile? The answer to this question should always be yes. If suddenly it's no, you should try to reconsider what you're actually working towards and investing all of your time and resources towards. Is this the right time? So if your goal is lasting many, many years, it might not always be the right time. It's okay to step away from something temporarily and then come back to it when the timing is better for you. Does this goal match my needs? Again, if it's lasting over a long period of your life, your needs obviously change day to day, month to month, year to year. So sometimes goals won't be compatible with your needs anymore, and that is okay too. Am I the right person to achieve this? You might start out down a path and realize that it's not right for you and you're not right for it, and that is okay. It takes a lot of courage to assess your goals, especially after you've invested so much time and resources and energy towards it, but you don't want to invest any more if it's not right for you. Is it possible in my current environment? And that kind of piggybacks off of, is this the right time? Unfortunately, life does not stop just because you're trying to achieve something. So things happen and your environment changes, and that's okay as long as you're being real with yourself and being real with your goals and consistently reassessing whether this is something that's possible at the moment. So the final letter of the SMART method is T for time bound. Unfortunately, two things that we do not have an infinite amount of is time and money. So this step takes into account that things are time sensitive, cost sensitive. In that light, we want to specify the time period to achieve our desired goal, since it is important to consider these limitations when we set our goals. So we'd like to ask questions like, when do I want to accomplish this goal by? What can I reasonably do today? What can I do within the next 6 weeks? And what could I do within the next 6 months? For example, with me, I was working full time at a bank. I was not able to take a full course load each semester. So I took 2 classes at night because that was the only amount that my time constraints would allow. And I also took summer classes in order to speed up the process so I wouldn't be in school any longer than I was. So those are examples of ways you can consider time while you set your goals. So before we finish, it is important to recognize that the way that we will get desired outcomes is through successful behaviors and not just any behavior. These are like 3 different tips that you can use. Firstly, you can recall past performance accomplishes. And through this, you can think of ways that you were successful in the past, even if it's completely unrelated to to what you're working towards now. And from these experiences, you can draw confidence that you will be able to perform the successful behaviors in order to achieve your desired outcome. And finally, that you have skills that you have used before, and those skills can be adapted to what you're trying to do now. So those are problem solving skills, social skills, communication skills. And it's important to think about the ways that you can use these previous experiences and apply them to whatever goal you're setting for yourself now. So on this slide, I just provided some references for you. The first hyperlink is a website that describes each of these steps in more detail if you want more information or if you need guidance in the future. The second bullet point here is a website that provides the 7 best goal tracking applications. And these apps that you could put on your phone or computer kind of embed what we've discussed in the presentation within their application. So it's something that you could have at your fingertips. Some of them show you progress in graphical design, so it might be something that you are interested in. And this is just the scholarly references that were used in this presentation. If you just copy the title into Google, you can find them. And if you want to learn more about them in a research-based manner, these are the articles that I used. So finally, I would like to part with you on a quote that I used while I was working towards my associate's and bachelor's degree. It's from Friedrich Nietzsche, and he said, "On the mountains of truth, you can never climb in vain. Either you will reach a point higher up today, or you will be training your powers so that you will be able to climb higher tomorrow." And with that, I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for spending this time with me.